What's up, guys? Welcome back to Between the Pylons. I'm John Camacho. Thank you so much for watching. And guys, today we are breaking down the Los Angeles Chargers draft. I'm sorry, I literally recorded that like 3 times and messed it up, so I got it this time. Guys, we're going to break down all the draft picks that were drafted in the first 3 rounds. I'll do my grades at the end, best, worst move, all that good stuff. But before that, let's take a look at the entire draft class. And if you guys enjoy this video, please consider liking it. And if you enjoy this kind of content, please consider subscribing. But taking a look at their draft, first pick, obviously, Rashawn Slater falls in their lap. This is a guy who I think a lot of people thought was going to be a first-round pick, or top 10 pick, excuse me. And he falls right into that range with the Chargers at 13, the second lineman off the board. They get a franchise left tackle, hopefully, in the mid part of the first round. I think that was like best case scenario for them. And then really coming back around the second round, best case scenario again with Asante Samuel out of Florida State. I think that was a really, really good pick. Add to that defense, that cornerback position there. They obviously brought in a young defensive coordinator, mastermind type guy in Brandon Staley. So he, he's going to get his guys on the defense. I think corner is very, very important to the way they play defense. Obviously, he came from having a ton of success with the Rams and a Jalen Ramsey. Now, I'm not saying that's what Asante Samuel is or will ever be, but I think, that's definitely an important position for his defense and the way they want to play. So that's just something that makes a whole lot of sense to me. Grab a guy who he did fell right into their range, right where I think, that was best case scenario for them again. And he falls right there to him. And then third round, I'm going to get into maybe some guys that I probably would have liked over a Josh Palmer. This is a guy that I had to go back and watch, in preparation for this video. I went back last night and watched some film on him, and I'm not gonna lie, I watched like 3 games on him because I did not expect to love him. I'm from Tennessee. I live in Tennessee. So I have a ton of UT fans that were really excited when he got drafted, and he wasn't a guy that was really on my radar. So that tells you something. He probably should have been, and he really should have been, because I do like him, and again, I'll get into that. He's the 3rd rounder. I'll have a whole breakdown on him. But moving through like just the rest of the class, I love that they really targeted tight end. They just targeted all of the positions of need, right? Tight end, line. They grabbed another tackle late out of Nebraska. And got a running back in Larry Roundtree, who I really like, out of Missouri. Got him in the 6th round. Just did everything right from a value standpoint in this draft. They did a lot of really good things there, and I think they have a lot of players that have a good chance to be very impactful year one. I think they got a lot better in this draft. But let's move on. Let's break down their first 3 rounds. We got to start with a Rashawn Slater out of Northwestern. Talking about a guy who has a high level of confidence going up against a Chase Young and really dominating him in that 2019 game. I have the Ohio State game film because that really is his claim to fame, and something I feel like a lot of people are talking about. Very strong, big hands, does everything right. His biggest issue, he doesn't have the length that I think a lot of people in the NFL and coaches and all those things, they really desire those long arms from the tackle position, and he doesn't have that. He has kind of short arms, and definitely has some inconsistencies along with that when you watch him play. Now, I will say, worst case scenario, you have a Pro Bowl level guard. No matter what, you have a guy who's going to start on that offensive line for a long time. I would expect this is a guy who some people had very, very close to a Penei Sewell. Not me. I thought Penei Sewell was far and away better, but a lot of people did. And hey, this is a really good player. I think the consensus number 2 lineman in this class, and they got him 13 overall. Great value there for you. Moving on to the 2nd round, Florida State. I just happen to have my Florida State Seminole shirt on today. I am a Florida State fan, so I've been on Asante Samuel for a long time. I mean, it's Asante Samuel Jr., so we know we know the bloodline is obviously there. A lot of people know about this kid. Great feel for the game, competitive and tough, and he should have a great feel for the game. He's the son of a legend in the NFL. Now, listen, I will say average ball skills. You go back and look at his interceptions. It's like there were a couple interceptions that you can talk about, but overall, not a guy that like you saw just plucking the ball out of the air a bunch at the college level. And again, maybe this is situational and other things that go with that. I will say average athlete. And now we're talking average athlete for a corner. To me, and the way I look at cornerback position, I need speed. I need explosiveness. I need a guy who can keep up with the 4-3 wide receiver that he doesn't know where he's going. And the wide receiver knows exactly where he's going. You see what I'm saying? Like technique is so important. All of these other aspects to the corner position is so important. But for me, like that athleticism, that explosiveness, that is the thing that is like the most important for the corner position. When you talk about Asante Samuel, it's not elite. is really good. He's fast enough. He can keep up with just about everybody, but like he's going to struggle versus like the true speed at the NFL level. And hey, that's where the NFL is going to. That's what they want. He plays best, I think, when he's like off man. And I think you watch him play. I think he's aware of like his deficiency in speed. He doesn't want to get beat deep, things like that. And that's my base issue. And I say all that to say that's why he went to the second round, because everything else is perfect. Like technique is awesome. He has a great feel for the game. He's so good at understanding like, oh, the ball's coming here. He's so good at understanding route combinations, and like it feels like he's a step ahead of some wide receivers. Like he knows where the guy's going before the wide receiver does. Like things like that are immaculate. So that's kind of why I say, okay, he's this great corner, all these things. Why did he fall to the second round? That's why he fell to the second round. So I wanted to put that in there and just kind of explain it away, because I do think he's a starter day one, and I'm going to speak very highly of him from here on out. But yeah, I like to keep a little bit of nuance there for some of these guys and explain, okay, great player, awesome player. Why was he the 5th or 6th corner off the board? That's why. So we'll move on to a Josh Palmer, drafted out of UT, wide receiver, has the size, has the length, and really like the one thing I was not expecting, route running, man. He's such a good route runner. Like like the amount of variety in his routes was very, very impressive. Now, limited route tree. The Tennessee didn't ask him to do a whole lot, which I think was just, that's Tennessee for you. I mean, it is what it is, but very, very good route runner. Obviously the size and length is a huge check. He fits the mold of an NFL wide receiver, right? Good ball skills, all of those things I think you want to see. Now, average athletically, I'm not like blown away by his explosiveness or anything like that, and I think that's my biggest thing. And then separation, I watched him against Georgia, and Eric Stokes was all over him. Now, Eric Stokes was a first round corner. He should be all over, a guy who goes to the third round. Like that makes sense, I guess, logically. But as a wide receiver, I'd like to see you beat the back into the first round corner at least sometimes. And Eric Stokes was connected to him like glue. So that was like one thing that I just recognized, like, okay, there's not an issue, but it's definitely something like I want to see a little bit more separation at the top of your routes and things like that. But listen, I think this is a team that valued route running, and it makes sense. I mentioned Brandon Staley. He came from the Rams. Now, Rams offensively, now I don't know off the top of my head how much of the personnel he brought over from the Rams and how much of that mindset offensively that he brought over from the Rams, but the Rams value route running. That's the reason Van Jefferson went in the second round last year. He's one of the best route runners in the class. He goes to the Rams in the second round. So it makes sense that that's the guy who would value. Now, I will say I had other guys on the board that went very close to after him that I thought, first of all, fit like this boundary outside wide receiver guy that Josh Palmer essentially is, and I thought was just a better prospect altogether. And I'll get into that in a little bit. And then with their last pick in the third round, a compensatory pick here, we got a Trey McKitty out of Georgia, another guy who was associated with Florida State, transferred from Florida State to Georgia, and a guy that I don't think a lot of people were super, super high on, but this is a dude who really, he's a pass-catching tight end. And he's not super, super smooth, but it's just another weapon there for a Justin Herbert, right? And listen, this is a guy that you're not going to ask to block, right? That it is what it is. That's not something that I'm going to ask from, at least early on in his career, at the very least. But this is a guy who looks very smooth and very comfortable in pass catching specifically. Runs his routes pretty well. Not great route running altogether, but good enough, I think. Good athleticism, good speed, and great hands, right? So all of those things make up a pass catching tight end. And yeah, listen, is it a little bit of a surprise that he went as early as he did, as far as like some of the projections that I saw? This wasn't a guy that I personally watched pre-draft, but again, there's another guy I watched last night, and another guy where I was like, yeah, I get it. I get it. It was a need for the Chargers as well. Obviously, Hunter Henry was gone. They had to replace him somewhere, and they obviously didn't feel like they had it on the roster, so they went to tight end, and we'll see if he can get any kind of production year one. This is, a sneaky back end if you're in Devy leagues or something like that, and you're looking for just like, let me put somebody in the back burner, and I need some help at tight end. This is the name that I would at least consider and think about, because he's going to a really good situation with Justin Herbert. There's an open position available, and he showed in college that he can at least run and play with some big SEC defensive players there, and did a good enough job to me to warrant some minor enthusiasm, excitement. It could happen, something good could happen. But now that we've gotten through like the premium picks that the Chargers had, let's get into my best and worst grade, and we'll talk about all my grades and all that. My best move, and I'm doing a deep cup a little bit. This is Larry Roundtree in the 6th round. That is my my favorite move from their class, and it's a little bit of decode. Honestly, just an excuse to talk about Larry Roundtree for a second, because I do think it's a perfect fit. Talking about a 4-year running back out of Missouri, had put up a bunch of stats, has all of these things you're gonna like, and I like him more right now than I did a Joshua Kelly last year. Joshua Kelly was a guy who went 3rd round last year. I didn't get it. I didn't see the whole thing with Joshua Kelly. I'll be honest, I think I was right on that one. Like, I'm not gonna brag about a lot of my hits or anything like that, but that was one I feel like I hit the nail on the head on Joshua Kelly a little bit. Struggled last year, had the opportunity when Eckler went down, didn't make the most of it. They had a Justin Jackson on the roster who I actually kind of liked. He was not really able to make the most of it either, as far as like what you would have hoped for at least. So they're looking for another running back to add to the mold. And granted, yeah, maybe they probably think they're okay. Obviously, they waited till the 6th round. And listen, obviously they waited till the 6th round for a reason on running back, because they probably didn't see it as a huge need. But I would also say, after those first 3 went, I mean, the NFL kind of showed you could see a huge gap as far as like the next running back off the board, and then you see like the majority of the running backs went like 5th to 7th round. Like there's 20 running backs went in the class, and there only 4 went in the first 3 rounds. I mean, so that kind of tells you what the NFL saw in this class. And I'm not sitting here telling you that Larry Roundtree is like a slam dunk superstar or anything like that. I just like his fit on this Chargers team, and I wanted to put that out there and tell you I think that's a really good move by the Chargers. My worst move, it's not drafting Josh Palmer, because I actually really like Josh Palmer, the player. I didn't expect to. He wasn't a guy that was on my radar. Like I said, I watched it last night and really like I dove into Josh Palmer. I feel like I have a really good idea of what he is and what he's going to bring to the Chargers, and I like a lot of that. I think this is a guy who very well could be the replacement to a Mike Williams. Josh Palmer might be the guy. Okay, if Josh Palmer can produce, you don't need to sign Mike Williams to a extension or big contract or anything like that. My issue was Dyami Brown went 5 picks later, and I think Dyami Brown did everything that Josh Palmer did. Now, granted, Dyami Brown's not as good of a route runner, and I'm sure that had a lot to do with the decision to take Josh Palmer, but Dyami Brown, to me, was the far better prospect and far better player and just an explosive athlete, and he was there. And then I look at like a Nico Collins who fell. He was also a guy who went late 3rd, and we're talking guys that are similar guys. Nico Collins, another guy who I thought big, large wingspan, all of these things, boundary wide receiver. Another guy who I was like, okay, I thought he could go, and he would fit the same kind of mold that a Josh Palmer is. And I was surprised that Josh Palmer went ahead of both those guys. So that's me. That's my worst move. And granted, listen, that's a personal take, and very obviously the Chargers were looking at that style of wide receiver, would have looked at all these guys, would have studied all these guys, decided Josh Palmer was the best fit for them. And hey, that's fine. That's totally fine. That's their decision. That's their choice. I personally would have gone a different way, and I wish they would have gone a different way. I probably would have liked their draft overall a little bit more. They would have gotten one of those premier wide receivers that I really liked in a position that wasn't a need, but certainly needed some depth pieces to add to help Justin Herbert, right? So that was my take. Let's move on to the grades, because this was a very good draft. I do my grades a little bit differently. I base it on players, value, and then needs, and I do 3 different grades there. My first grade for just players is a B+. I love the players they got. I really do. Very, very good draft for them. There are certain points where, like, okay, there were better guys I probably would have taken. I mentioned the Josh Palmer thing, right? That's one of those things. But overall, I really like the assortment of guys they got. I think they got a lot better. So B+ there, did really, really good there. Draft value, A+. A++. I mean, honestly, it's a very, very good job of grabbing players in the right spot. Now, with Josh Palmer, I keep mentioning his name, I'm sorry, but he was a guy I don't think a lot of people were expecting to go 3rd round and all those things. You could say, oh, well, that was bad value or whatever. Okay, yeah, I guess I get the concept, but really after watching him, I came away thinking, yeah, I probably would have had like a 3rd or 4th round grade on him. I really would have. So then maybe that granted, I watched it after the fact, knowing he's a 3rd rounder, so went into it with that mindset, so that could have had a factor there. But overall, I do really like the prospect. So I don't want anybody to hear what I'm not saying that I liked other guys more is not me saying I dislike Josh Palmer, right? So just want to give a little bit of nuance there for that conversation. But overall, you got amazing draft value with Rashawn Slater. You got great value with Asante Samuel, who's probably going to be another plug and play starter. You got really, really great value with a Larry Roundtree, attacking running back late. So yeah, overall, I think they did a really good job of understanding where they were at, getting good value. So yeah, very good grade there. And then needs A+. Again, again, another A+ grade, because I really like that they pretty much attacked everywhere they needed. I mean, every position that left or was an issue last year, they covered, right? You know, they grabbed the tight end in the late third round out of Georgia. You know, can replace a Hunter Henry. They grabbed the tackle early. They needed a tackle. They need to grab a corner. You grabbed a running back late. They needed a backup running back. These mid-round picks, obviously you don't want to spend a ton of time like worrying about them, because they're usually either depth pieces or out of the NFL very, very early on, and then you just hope to hit a here and there. But again, grab an extra tackle. You need that. Grab a linebacker. They could use some help on the edge with a Chris Rumpf out of Duke, who I kind of liked. I didn't love him. I think that was his range, but I really liked him as well. So overall, I think the Chargers did a really, really good job. I certainly think they got a lot better over the weekend, and I think that's all you can really ask for these teams. Get better, and this is a team, going in a different direction with a new coach and new organization, the front office and all those things. But man, you got one hell of a quarterback in Justin Herbert. You have a cornerstone on the defensive side of the ball with a Joey Bosa. You have some pieces to grow, and I think the Chargers are a team that are like, man, they could have won a lot more games than they did if they wouldn't have given it up in the third and fourth quarter. So I think there's a lot to like about this Chargers team, and they have a chance to be really, really special this year. But guys, that is all I have on the Chargers. Thank you so much for watching. Please, if you enjoy this video, hit the like button. It really helps the algorithm, helps me get some more views in the long run. If you like the kind of content I'm putting out, hit that subscribe button. I think this is a small channel that is growing rapidly lately, so I would really appreciate you being a part of it if you're not subscribed already. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Peace out.